I was spending $10 to $20 per day on Anthropic's API token usage, which would have equated to roughly $200 to $300 per month just to run OpenClaw. I'm not even just talking about Opus. I was using Sonet and I was trying to keep the costs down. And even with Sonet, I was paying anywhere from $5 to $7 a day, which would still be roughly $200 per month. I'm going to show you guys how to save as much money as possible. And we're going to be doing this by utilizing a ChatGPT Plus subscription. For $20 a month, you can get quite a bit of usage and a ton of functionality out of OpenClaw for just, like I said, $20 a month. So I'm going to show you guys some of my agents and how I have all of my models set up and how I'm capping my costs per month to run OpenClaw and not having to break the bank. All right, so let's get into it. So here we are in the SSH terminal of my OpenClaw instance. This is assuming that you have already installed OpenClaw and you've already gone through the full setup process and got everything up and running. If you need a full guide on how to install OpenClaw, go ahead and check out my last video. So in the terminal here, I'm just going to go ahead and type in OpenClaw and then configure. If I can type it here, there we go. And first option, and then we're going to go down to models, and we're going to be setting up OpenAI Codex OAuth. So go ahead and run through these prompts real quick. I've already set this up, but I might as well just do it again real quick. It won't take that long. You want to go ahead and hit the OpenAI Codex, which will be for your ChatGPT Plus account. And then it's going to want you to go ahead and go to this URL here. And then in a browser tab, it's just going to have you log in real quick. And then once you log in, you're going to get to a window like this. In my case, it's saying the connection is refusing, although it did work. It went through and fully logged in. And now you need to copy the code or the token from the URL. So it starts here after it says code equals, and you want to copy this string all the way to this and sign. So right before and scope equals, we want to copy that string. So in my case, it ends with EN0, and then put that into our terminal. Okay, copied. All right, and now you are locked in, logged in, ready to go. You can now utilize any of these Codex models. So if I go back to the terminal here and scroll down to some of the models here, you've got your OpenAI Codex, and any of these you can use. However, the only one that I've noticed so far that I wasn't able to use was the Codex 5.3 Spark. And if anyone knows how to get that working, let me know. It looks like I have usage for Codex Spark, but for some reason I cannot get the chat interface to interact with that model. And some of these you don't really need anymore, like GPT 5.1 Codex Max is now comparable to like GPT 5.3 Codex. And then another thing that I think a lot of people were confused about is they thought that you would only get the Codex models for coding. But the cool thing here is you actually do get some of the standard ChatGPT models like 5.2 non-Codex, and then also 5.1 non-Codex, which is the much cheaper version of 5.2, and then also 5.3 Codex. So once you enable all those, you'll have to hit spacebar on all the ones you want. You can go ahead and hit enter. And then now those are all set up, continue. Now, real quick, let's talk about the ChatGPT usage. So it is pretty generous what they give you. And you can see here that I'm at my weekly usage limit of 47% remaining, and I have until March 4th. And today is the 28th already. So I've already used up quite a bit of usage, so it's going to be cutting it pretty close, but I have been just hammering my system with trying to get things set up and dialed in. And that's where a lot of the upfront costs come from when people are spending a ton of money on Anthropic API token usage. Is just that initial setup is just going to destroy your API uses and your costs. And that's one of the cool things, like I said, about capping your usage at a $20 per month plan. Even if you do run through your weekly usage, you might only have like a day where you can wait to come back and then get things dialed in again. So I think once I get things more dialed in, that this is going to be a lot more reasonable, the weekly limit usage. And another thing to keep in mind is if you're doing a ton of coding, which is what Codex is meant for, the Codex 5.3 Codex, it is going to probably use quite a bit of usage. And again, I was noticing here that there is a 5.3 Codex Spark usage. However, whenever I try to use that model in the chat terminal, it comes back and tells me cannot be used with ChatGPT Plus. So I think this is just something that they just added to ChatGPT Plus. So maybe in the future, we'll also be able to utilize our Codex Spark. And for those of you that don't know what Codex Spark is, it's actually just a cheaper model with a smaller context window. So keep that in mind. It's not going to be as smart as just the standard 5.3 Codex. And the reason for that is they're running it on a different GPU that is more cost effective. So in the future, if they ever fix this bug, I think we'll also be able to use this ChatGPT 5.3 Codex Spark. Now, moving on to my agents and how I have this all set up and dialed in. That is going to be the most important thing here. If I go back to my SSH terminal, I've already brought this up. You can go ahead and type in OpenClaw agents and it'll bring up all your agents and what all the models are attached to it. So in my case, I have my default, the CEO, Claudia. She's the brains of the operation. And I've got her set on GPT 5.2. And then Atlas is the head coder, CTO, and he is set on GPT 5.3-Codex, which is going to make a lot more sense, especially once I start getting into more agentic coding tasks. And then I've got Intel, the play on words. Intel is our analyst researcher. Intel I put on Grok 4.1 fast, which is dirt cheap. So you could also use your search agent with your ChatGPT Plus subscription, maybe even put it on like a lighter model, like 5.1. And then that brings me to Nova here. Nova is my assistant, and she is on GPT 5.1, which the costs from 5.2 to 5.1 are like 30% cheaper. However, it doesn't think for as long and it has a lot less reasoning. So Nova's in charge of kind of like the less trivial tasks, like sending me my morning brief once it gets all the information from the other agents, or essentially putting together some of the research, just kind of general tasks. And in the future, I'm probably going to expand this even more, but these are the agents that I have set up so far. And then real quick, moving on to how I have all of these dialed in to chat with, I actually use a combination of Telegram and Discord. So Telegram, I actually have these all set up in Telegram with their own tokens, and it wasn't too hard to set up. I actually just had my CTO, head of infrastructure, set it up for me. I just essentially said, hey, how do we get every single bot to have their own chat? And it was essentially like, well, you need a token for each one, and you got to make a BotFather account for every single one. And it wasn't too hard to do. I mean, I had to set them all up in BotFather myself manually, but then I just handed over all of the tokens over to Atlas, and Atlas set it up almost immediately. And then I got all the different emojis and whatnot set up so I can differentiate them. Some of these they picked themselves. And then I also have them set up in a Discord server. So I set up a Discord server here. I still can talk to all of them individually in the Discord server. However, I found that Telegram was better for especially like maintenance tasks, because Discord uses WebSocket and Telegram uses polling. So essentially when the system would restart, my agents would just go silent in Discord. And in Telegram, they would always report back once they changed anything, or after a system rebooted, it would always come back. And a lot of times in Discord, I have to be like, hey, are you still there? Did you change what you did? So that's why I'm using a combination of Telegram and Discord. Right now, I think I actually at one point might just totally get rid of these channels here and then fully utilize some of my projects. And projects I have Nova handling right now in conjunction with Intel and Claudia. And this covers things like a morning brief. And this is how my morning brief is currently set up. And just so you guys have an idea, this is the difference between Sonnet and GPT 5.1. So I did really like the way that Sonnet 4.6 handled all of the information and put it all together. This is like a stock research. And if you go through here, it looks pretty nice and pretty well set up. And then once I switched it over to, this was the day I switched it over to 5.1. You can see, I mean, it's about the same information, but it's just a lot less organized. You know, it doesn't have as much flair with some of the different like emojis and whatnot that's going on here. So one thing that you can do is you can adjust your agent's identity MD and kind of tell it, hey, I want you to be more energetic, or I want you to add certain things, or I want you to act a certain way, or when you send the brief, I want it to be in a better like organized format. And I think that's the biggest struggle that I've had with OpenAI is the GPT models are more cryptic, whereas like Anthropic's models are a lot more warm and a little more, I guess, human-like, if that makes any sense. So anyway, once I dialed in Nova and gave her some more identity traits, this is how I got her to eventually pull out the data. So I got it to be kind of similar to the way that Sonnet 4.6 would send me this report with, you know, some of the different emojis and the bigger text. And there's still some formatting problems, you know, that I need to fix, but hey, that's what OpenClaw is. It is a lot of troubleshooting and going back and forth and trying to get things dialed in. And in the middle of editing this video, of course, GPT 5.4 thinking and 5.3 non-thinking just released. Now, as of recording and as of editing this video, right now we cannot use either of those in Codex. So I did check. I'm assuming that there'll be an OpenClaw update at some point, and that OpenAI will eventually allow us to use the Codex version of both 5.3 and 5.4. So we should have even smarter models for the cost of $20 a month. So we'll stay tuned for that, and I'll probably do another video testing out these models to see if they're any smarter, especially with like OpenClaw. So anyway, that'll do it for this video. If you guys have any questions, let me know down below, or different video topics you'd like me to cover with OpenClaw, such as setting up this awesome Discord dashboard. Like I said, I'm gonna be doing some more content on OpenClaw and also some AI videos. So if any of that interests you, consider subscribing to the channel. And as always, have a wonderful day.